Alright, this is the assignment 10.2 from yesterday, and here we go. So, first part, the number of congruent sides in a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. Since two angles are the same, that means two sides are the same. So, the number of congruent sides, 2, always. Next one, 45, 45, 90 triangles. The length of the hypotenuse is the length of a leg times the square root of 2. Because remember, the ones that are touching the right triangle or the right angle are called the legs. So this one's supposed to be leg. Number 2, find the length of the hypotenuse in these triangles. Write your answer in radical form. So radical form, if that's the leg, then this is just that leg times the square root of 2. So you just go 7, square root of 2, you're done. Over here, 5 is the leg, so that means the hypotenuse. 5 square root of 2, you're done. And over here, if you think about it, we got that leg and multiplied it by the square root of 2. So if you get the square root of 5, multiply it by the square root of 2, they're both prime numbers. You cannot factor them, but you have to multiply them back together inside the radical. So that'd be square root of 10. And you're done. Now, if it was asking for decimal form instead of radical form, the only difference is that you would put this in your calculator and press equals and it would give you an answer. So like, for example, 7 square root of 2 is 9.9. If you're using your phone app as the calculator, then you would still put it into the calculator. So you want to try at least one of these to make sure that it works. So right here I got 9.9. I'm going to write that up here. On the next one, 5 square root of 2, I get 7.1. So make sure you're trying those on the calculator. And then the last one, square root of 10, square root 10, 3.2. So if you were doing decimals, these would be your answers. Because the directions say radical form, these circled ones are the answers. Next part says find the value of x. So once again, this is the hypotenuse. So if that's 3, this side's also 3, but this one right here is going to be 3 square root of 2. And then over here, this is a leg 6. This is the hypotenuse, so this would be 6 square root of 2. And then this one, 2 is a leg. X is the hypotenuse, so it'd be 2 square root of 2. Now this is find the length of a leg, so now we're going in reverse. Remember that if you're going from the hypotenuse back to the legs, you're going to divide instead of multiplying. So it's still going to be by the square root of 2, but you're going to get that hypotenuse and divide it by the square root of 2 instead of multiplying it. If you have a square root of 2 on top and a square root of 2 on the bottom, they cancel each other out, and you're left with just the 2 that was in the numerator as your answer. Over here, same thing, 13 square root of 2. If you divide that by the square root of 2, square root of 2's cancel, and then x has to be 13. Over here, same thing, 11 square root of 2. If you divide by the square root of 2, that cancels, so that means your x has to be 11. And then number 12, determine whether there's enough information to conclude that the triangle is a 45, 45, 90. Here's the 90 part of it, and because these two other angles are the same, the other 90 degrees from the total 180 has to be divided by 2. So 90 divided by 2 makes that 45 and 45. So this one, you'd say yes, there's enough information. So if I told you that was 7, the other side would be 7, and that'd be 7 square root of 2. If that was 4, that'd be 4, that'd be 4 square root of 2. If that was chicken, that'd be chicken, and the hypotenuse would be chicken square root of 2. Number 13. These two angles are 45s and all triangles are 180 total. So if you get 180 minus 45 and 45, that angle does have to be 90. And because of that, you have a 45, 45, 90. So yes, you have enough information. Over here, you have a right angle, and this one's 45. So 180 minus 90 and minus 45, you're going to have 45 left over here. So that means that yes, you have enough information, and you'll know that that is a right triangle. Number 15, it says you want to enclose a triangular vegetable garden with fencing. How many feet of fencing do you need? And then round your answer to the 10th. So this one's asking for a decimal answer. So if it's a right 45, 45, 90 triangle, there's your right angle. You have 10 and 10. This side right here has to be 10 square root of 2. And it says fencing going around it, that'd be the perimeter, going around this triangle. So you're going to get 10 and 10 and 10 square root of 2 and add them all together. So on the calculator, 10 plus 10 plus 10 square root of 2. There we go. Let me double check that. 10 plus 10 plus 10 square root of 2. And you get 34.1. And we're talking about feet. So I'm going to label it as feet. On the back side of 10.2, it says write the 45, 45, 90 triangle theorem in words. We're not going to do that. Number 2, a 45, 45, 90 triangle has a leg that is square root of 2 feet long. Let me draw my little diagram so I can see what's going on. So these two are the 45s. It says a leg is square root of 2. So the leg, square root of 2. And its hypotenuse is 2 feet long. 2 feet long. It says, what is the length of the other leg? Well, I don't even need to know what this is. If it tells me that it's 45, 45, 90, and this leg is square root of 2, this other leg has to also be the square root of 2. Number 3, find the length of the hypotenuse in this 45, 45, 90 triangle. So we want answers in radical form. If that's square root of 7, I would multiply by the square root of 2. So if I get square root of 7, multiply it by the square root of 2. Prime and prime, I don't have to factor it. I just multiply it together and leave it inside the radical. That would be a simplified radical form answer. Over here, if this is 5, the hypotenuse, 5 square root of 2. I can move on. Over here, that's a leg, so I multiply by square root of 2. So once again, square root of 11 and square root of 2 are both prime numbers. So I'm going to multiply them together and I get square root of 22. For number 6, it says find the length of x. So this is a hypotenuse. You're going in reverse. So instead of multiplying, we're going to divide. So it's going to be 16 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. That cancels out. Your answer is 16. Over here, it looks like it's not a 45, 45, 90 triangle, but if you look at it, it's definitely a rhombus. You have all four sides the same, which means if all four sides are the same, I can put an X here, ignore this whole top piece of it. I could even white it out to make it even easier to ignore. And this triangle that I have left over, that's the hypotenuse. Those are the legs. So I'm going to divide because I'm going in reverse. So 2 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. These will cancel each other out. X has to be 2. And then on this one, I can still move this across because if these two angles are the same, they're both 45s, and this is 90, this side's 90 also, that means that these are actually two twin triangles. They're exactly the same size and shape. They're congruent to each other. So you have two congruent triangles, and that means that if this leg of this right triangle is x, then the leg going the other way is also x. And once again, I can pretend that side's not even there. Wipe that out. Make it easier for you to see it. It's not there. And now I have a little right triangle, and I can go, okay, well then I'm going in reverse. I have the hypotenuse, I'm going backwards. 15 square root of 2 is going to be divided by the square root of 2. That goes away, and my answer is 15. Number 9, it says determine if there's enough information. If that's a right triangle and those legs are the same, that means it's an isosceles right triangle. That means that the angles have to be the same, and that means that the 90 degrees that's left over from 180 has to be split in half, 45 here and 45 there. So yes, there's enough information. On this problem, we know that it's isosceles. We know that on isosceles triangles, we have these two base angles are congruent, but there's nothing telling us that this is 45 and 45. It could be 43 and 43. It could be 44.5 and 44.5. So we don't know if that's a right triangle or not, so no, we can't say that that is. Number 11, it's isosceles because of these two congruent legs, congruent sides. And then we have this angle is 45 because it's isosceles. That means this angle here is also 45. And if these are 45s, 180 minus 45 minus another 45 leaves you with 90 right here. So yes, that is enough, according to the rules of the triangles. Number 12, show that the triangle is a 45, 45, 90, then find the value of each variable. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So that's 45 and that's 45. 180 minus 45 and 45 means this has to be 90 because I can subtract the angles that I know to find the last angle that I didn't know. Now that I know that it's a right triangle and I know that it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle, that's the hypotenuse. I'm going in reverse to find the leg. So instead of multiplying, I'm going to divide by the square root of 2. Cancel that out. X is 6. Number 13, it's a right triangle. That means these two angles are sharing the other 90 degrees. So 90 divided by 2 is going to give me 45 for this angle and also for this angle because these are the same. So this is 45, 45, 90. This is the hypotenuse. That's the leg. So I'm going in reverse again. So I'm going to divide by the square root of 2 again. Cancel this out. My x has to be 7. And then the last problem, 5x and 5x are doing the same thing that those two marks did right there. They're showing you that these two angles are the same and it's a right triangle, so that means these two legs have to be the same. So yes, 45, 45, 90. 30 square root of 2, going in reverse, you're going to divide by the square root of 2. That goes away. Your y is 30. So we found y for the legs. Now when it comes to the angles that are here, we're going to have to ignore the 45, 45, 90 rules and just think about if these are 45s, then we can make an equation where we make that 5x equal to 45. And now we can solve it. Divide 5 on both sides. X is 9. So on this one, you actually had two answers. You had x was 9 and you had y was 30.